Hello, everybody, and welcome back to coverage of Grand Prix Philadelphia. I am Marshall Sutcliffe. I am joined in the booth by Steve Sadin, and we are entering the 8th round of play here, and we are battling. We're going to see two undefeated players battle, both at 7-0. On your left, Martin Yuza. There he is. He's got his Channel Fireball shirt on, and he zips it right up. He's also got his Magic the Gathering Martin Yuza branded shirt. Pretty sweet there. And
He
he's
got that at the Players' Championship.
He did indeed. He's going to be playing against Martin Lindstrom. You get a look at him here from Sweden. Again, also sitting at 7-0. Behind you get a quick look at Cedric Phillips with Rufus upon his head.
Rufus
we might
is stuffed dog that plays along with him.
That's right. All right, incoming deck list here.
Yeah, the two Martins.
Yep.
So Lindstrom.
All right, so it
off.
looks like Lindstrom's got a pretty nice one drop here with the Centaur's Herald, although it's one drop in the technical sense. It doesn't actually do anything until at least the third turn. I guess it could block.
Martin, Transguild Promenade on turn 2.
Not an exciting play, but it has a lot of potential.
Lindstrom just passes his third turn. Presumably going to make a Centaur at the end of Yuza's turn.
All right, so Yuza has 2 planes and a promenade. We don't know which colors he's actually in yet, but he leads off with a Vassal Soul, and on the end step, Lindstrom says, sure, I'll turn this thing into a Centaur. That sleeve is a Centaur. We might get a Centaur token thrown in there. That usually happens. A judge will take care of it, and
Yep.
right on cue, there's a Centaur, and whoa, it's a feisty one. It just attacks right away.
Knocks Yuza down to 17.
And Lindstrom just passes the turn. He's got 2 white sources and 2 green sources. Eyes in the Skies?
Maybe Avenging Arrow, Eyes in the Skies.
Now, if you're in Lindstrom's spot, do you Eyes in the Skies for the blocks, or do you make them so that you can attack?
Probably set up a attack with them.
I like that, too. All right, so Yuza plays his 4th land, and does he have a play? Sort of. He's playing 3, and he's going to play an Izzet Keyrune into a Doorkeeper. Doorkeeper's going to do a fine job of keeping that Centaur at bay. And it is, in fact, Eyes in the Skies. Make another Centaur and make a bird. Solid aggressive play here. He's got a couple of sleeves to represent some creatures until some tokens get in there. He points out to Martin Yuza that which one's which, but we can see the one is for the bird.
So even if Yuza puts his Doorkeeper in front of a Centaur, which he will, he's going to take 4 and fall to 13. No, that's not a Centaur.
Hey, I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't mind a 3rd Centaur there, but this one's just a bird. Looks like Yuza has a ton of tokens there, but no birds. Make it a dragon. I like it. If you can't have a 1-1,
pretty
make
close.
It a 6-6, yeah. Okay, make it a goblin. All right, now we will know that that is actually a bird token, and they'll probably find one to put in there as well. All right, 5th land, what do you got?
Slime
Molding for 4.
So.
And so he picks out, again, that's not a slime, but whatever. So this is a 4-4. So he's got a 4-4, 2 3-3s, and a 1-1 with flying. A pretty well-developed board here for Lindstrom right off the bat.
It's not unreasonable to think that Yuza could just die in the next turn or 2 unless he does something strong.
No, it really isn't. And Yuza looks like he's gone fairly deep with his mana base here. We only see plains, but I also see a mountain in his hand. We know that he wants to play something for blue, most likely, because he's got the Izzet Keyrune in there too. So let's see what he wants to do with this turn. I see an Azorius Charm in his hand. He can use that to just kill any token he wants, including the big 4-4 there. Now,
so normally that would put attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's deck.
Right.
But with a creature token, as soon as that leaves play, even for a split second, it's gone for good.
That's right. All right, so Armory Guard is what Yuza decides on now. He does leave up the mana to play that Azorius Charm, it looks like.
So,
and he says, go.
Yuza looked like he was in an awful spot 30 seconds ago.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly,
now he's taking 1 damage instead.
He's got it basically stabilized. He can put the Armor Guard and the Doorkeeper in front of Lindstrom's 3/3s, charm away the 4/4, and take 1 from the bird.
That's right. All right, so everybody attacks, block here. He's going to make sure that Lindstrom doesn't want to do any combat tricks on his unblocked guy or even on his blocked guys. Right, and then the Azorius Charm does take out the 4/4 ooze. So it's gone for good, and it looks like we're going to see a Savage Surge, which is going to take down the Armory Guard there. It's also going to deal... nope, no damage.
No, that doesn't give Trample. That untaps.
That untaps, right. Either way, it was still 5 toughness. So, all right, I believe I see a Detention Sphere in Martin's hand.
So he can use that to take out the 2 Centaurs.
Yeah, this is a very strong play. Now, the question becomes, can Martin Lindstrom do anything in response? No, right? Because populating isn't going to do anything with that trigger on the stack. So this is actually just a really great play for Martin Yuza because it just can't be interrupted.
Well,
all right, he's going to
Concordia Pegasus.
Yeah, Concordia Pegasus instead.
And a Frostburn, weird.
All right, so he decides to wait a turn, and really, why not?
Or more. He may never deal with those Centaurs.
That's true, because right now they're just simply not a threat at all. And really, he doesn't have a way to apply pressure himself, so what's the hurry?
Yeah. Yuza still getting in for 2 points a turn with his Vassal Soul.
Like you said, it felt like Martin Yuza was in a pretty precarious spot, and all of a sudden, seems like he's in the driver's seat. Now, he's not applying tons of pressure, so... You know, things can change pretty quickly here. There's a Rubbleback Rhino for Lindstrom, but...
Again, that's just another 3-power creature.
It is.
Now, at any point, Yuza could decide to place Detention Sphere and take out both of Lindstrom's Centaur tokens, but he just doesn't have to yet.
It just doesn't change much.
Yeah.
It would allow him to attack with his Frostburn, where that just doesn't seem that worth it, does it? Can only pump it twice. All right, he is going to Detention Sphere here, though, and he's going to name the tokens. Lindstrom says, can I read that one time? Pretty annoying for Lindstrom, although, you know, a Detention Sphere gets around Populate quite nicely.
Doesn't matter how many Centaurs you have, Detention Sphere will get rid of all of them.
All right, he does have that mountain. Now, this makes more sense. So, you know, what I was saying before is that this play didn't make a ton of sense because he couldn't even really attack with the Frostburn, where he only had 2 blue or red sources to pump it, but he actually had another in his hand. So, indeed, Martin Lindstrom says, I'll take the trade, and the Frostburn word trades for the Rubbleback Rhino, and all of a sudden, Yuza's in a pretty nice spot. He's got 3 power of flying in the air versus just 1 for Martin Lindstrom.
Yuza's definitely in the lead, but it wouldn't be that hard for Lindstrom to take control of the game here. Even a towering Indrik prevents Yuza from having any profitable attacks.
That's right. All right, well, how do you feel about a Stone Fair Crocodile?
Not quite as good.
Although he can basically make this an even... No, he doesn't have a black mana source. Yep.
And Yuza attacks with his 2 flyers. Does not activate the Izzet Key Rune.
Would you have there?
I
would have. I like the battle, man. Trade it off for that Crocodile if he wants. Maybe he needs that source of mana. I'm not sure. He's got a Promenade, so I can't really imagine too much. I
Well,
also
he
don't
might
know
need
what he has
double
in his
blue.
hand, though. Yep, that's true.
And
He could need
Lindstrom
double
has
blue.
a Centaur healer.
Yep. Solid
puts him-
addition to his board.
puts him
He's
back
got
to
an
11.
island. Martin Yuza had an island in hand. And he just says go. So does Lindstrom have attacks now? Yeah, right? Get in there for
he has to attack with his creatures, I think.
Now, is it Key Rune, though, then can be activated and block if it wants, or Martin Yuza can activate it on his turn and attack and even get a loot out of the deal. He's keeping those cards in his hand so that if he ever does get in with that Is it Key Rune, he'll have the opportunity to loot, draw a card, and then discard a card. He's got to deal damage to his opponent with that Key Rune to make that happen, but that's a powerful ability if he can get it to happen. All right, so the bird is flying in. Is that what's happening
and
here?
Yusa already took the damage, fell to 9, and Lindstrom passed the turn over. Yusa cracks in again with his flyers. And a Skymark Rock.
Wow, that's a big one here.
Yusa now representing lethal damage next turn.
Because that thing can be used to take out, well, not to take out, but to bounce the
bird token, and then Lindstrom won't have any blockers.
Yeah, the bird token, and then even the Stonefair Crocodile subsequently. Now, I just saw Luis Scott Vargas strut by holding another match slip, so it looks like he is 8-0. Said it's been a while for him since he's been 7-0, so that's got to feel good. All right, so Martin Hughes is looking very, very good here to win Game 1 versus Martin Lindstrom.
Right, so Luis Scott Vargas' last Grand Prix top 8 came in February at Grand Prix Lincoln, which to a lot of people would be pretty recently. To someone as accomplished and talented as LSV, that's a lifetime.
It's true. All right.
Oh,
so
we see an island in Lindstrom's graveyard. Yusa attacks in, bounces the bird. Lindstrom's dead.
All right, so Martin Yusa methodically works his way to a favorable board state there and is able to defeat Martin Lindstrom as we see Lindstrom go for his Ziploc bag full of sideboard here. Maybe he's got a sandwich in there too.
Lindstrom got off to what looked like a huge lead early.
He really did.
Yusa had everything he needed to stabilize and a detention sphere to take out all of Lindstrom's centaurs.
Yep. Martin Lindstrom's making some comments there to Yusa, but also thumbing through his sideboard to see if there's anything of note to bring in.
Looks like Yusa's making a couple of changes.
I think that's pretty normal to make some changes like that, especially when you get to see such a linear strategy from Lindstrom. You know, anything that's good against Centaur tokens, I think, is something that Yusa's going to want to be interested in.
Sure. So if he has any bounce spells, any other 4 toughness creatures in his sideboard,
one of my favorite cards from the set is both a bounce spell and a 4 toughness creature.
Yeah?
Kind of interesting. Because those are both such good effects in the set, I think.
Sure. 3/3 creatures are everywhere.
Yeah. Especially 3 power.
We've got Centaurs coming out of green-white decks. We have Splatter Thugs coming out of red decks.
Dead Revelers.
Yeah. Black decks. Even uncommons. You've got things like Dregmangler.
Yeah.
A lot of good
healer. There's even, you know, some of the key runes have 3 power.
Yeah, a lot of good 3-power attackers on the ground.
That's true.
Oh.
We usually we talk about things in terms of like the magic number, you know, for toughness when we're talking about limited, and usually a set will kind of have this threshold where creatures are much safer or block much better once you get past it, and they and in this set it seems to be 4 is pretty clearly that number. All right, looks like sideboard changes have been made. I've never seen anybody shuffle like that. Look how he's putting the cards down.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the top.
It's a very different mechanic from
I've never seen
what
that.
I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, me too. I think if I tried it like that, it would just be one big pile.
Or about 18 different piles splattered all over the floor.
Yeah, either way, it wouldn't be pretty. So, get a look at Brian Kibler and David Williams walking by, chatting about their tournament. All right, let's resolve some mulligans and get underway here in Game 2 with Martin Yuza up a game here at Grand Prix Philadelphia. Day 1, Return to Ravnica sealed. We are entering the final stretch of Day 1, and then we're going to be getting Day 2 today, as weird as that sounds. All right, they're off. Let's see if Lindstrom has a turn 2 play. He does not. Martin Yuza just played a gate on turn 1, Azorius, and he's going to follow up with an island. So Lindstrom should have a 3-drop here for sure, right? There it is.
Yeah,
it's Stonefair Crocodile, and it resolves. All right, so what does Martin Yuza have to say about a Stonefair Crocodile here? And you mentioned you saw an island in Martin Lindstrom's deck somewhere as well.
On the last turn, Yuza milled him with Storekeeper and flipped over an island.
Interesting. All right.
Yuza, no turn 3 play. Takes 3 from the Stonefair Crocodile. And Lindstrom passes the turn, obviously respecting the possibility of cancel.
Exactly. You got to figure that Lindstrom had a play there, but he decided actively that he didn't want to cast anything because he didn't want to get it countered. He really doesn't have any pressure on himself to do anything. Also, he happened to have an instant that he could play on end step with Eyes in the Skies. Another reason why I think that card is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it certainly has its utility. Being able to play your threats on their turn certainly is good.
Yeah. So now Yuza has 4 mana up. He could flash in a Hussar Patrol.
Yep.
Which could potentially be a pretty big headache for Lindstrom.
I think Lindstrom has a Phantom General.
Yep. Phantom General in his hand.
And I think that he...
so he can play that pre-combat, which he does. So now he gets to see, does Yuza have a cancel?
Yeah, this is a big one.
So then he can attack in with his Stonefair Crocodile. If not, he can just attacks in with the 2 birds.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So what's going on here is Martin Lindstrom has, he thinks that Martin either has like a counterspell like cancel or syncopate, or he has Hussar Patrol. And this way it allows him to decide whether he's got one or the other and get in an attack. So what he's decided is that Martin has Hussar Patrol, and he decided not to attack.
He has Supreme Verdict.
So that is super interesting because that, Martin Lindstrom was taking this particular line to play around Hussar Patrol and then figure out if he's got cancel, and instead walks right into Martin Yuza's trap, sitting there with Supreme Verdict to wipe the board. So
Lindstrom has nothing.
He just has nothing.
He's got a Giant Growth and an Aerial
Judgment.
Predation.
Oh, man.
But no threat. And Yuza has 6 lands. He hasn't played a single creature yet.
You got to figure that this benefits Yuza significantly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little concerning that Yuza hasn't played a single creature. He does have a Detention Sphere in hand.
Lindstrom's out of threats. Sure, he's got a couple of answers in his hand, but...
All right, 4 mana, still leaving up cancel, potentially Skymark Rock.
So now...
Pretty safe assumption that it's going to just get judgmented here, right? I mean,
Or
aerial
aerial
predation here.
predation.
Yeah, sorry. Seems like a pretty straightforward play there.
Yeah.
All right, it's dead. You gain 2 life. All right, does Martin Lindstrom have anything that he can add to the board to start pressuring Martin Yuza, who's doing nothing?
That supreme verdict was
That was insane.
so devastating.
There we go.
And Lindstrom goes ahead and plays a Courser's Accord, which Yuza lets resolve.
Right, which means that, you know, at that point, you would assume that if Yuza did have the cancel, he would have played it. I mean, he could have an answer to these coursers, but you certainly don't want to let the populate engine start getting out of control.
Unless he has Detention Sphere again.
Which he does.
Yeah.
So maybe the plan is just to Detention Sphere away both of the Centaurs. Just take the 1-for-1, you know.
Yeah. Things certainly aren't getting worse for him as time goes on.
I don't think he wants to take a hit here. Does Yuza actually have 2 Detention Spheres in his hand?
No, I think that's a Azorius Charm.
Ah, right.
They
Okay.
look similar.
Thank you.
I'm trying to... Is that a Cyclonic Rift in his hand? And he does Detention Sphere away the Centaurs.
And he follows back up with a Concordia Pegasus. Now, he still has mana untapped for cancel.
Which
But I
he's
don't
been
think
representing the whole game.
He has. I just don't think that Martin's in a position at this point that he can really bother with it, right?
Oh.
All right.
And Lindstrom...
Rubbleback Rhino resolves as well.
Now, that could be tough for Yuza.
Yeah.
He needs to find a 4 toughness blocker.
I think he's got an inaction injunction
Which
and an Azorius
can't
charm.
touch a Rumbleback Rhino.
That's right. Same thing with the Azorius charm.
Yep.
Martin's still thinking about what he wants to do here. He's already attacked in for 1 point with his Concordia Pegasus.
Does he have to cycle his Azorius charm to
It's
try to
also
draw into
possible.
something?
Right now, though, Martin Lindstrom does have 3 full cards in hand, so it'd be kind of a bummer to have to just get rid of it, but he does.
At this point, Yuza hoping to find a Doorkeeper or an Armory Guard or something that can block his opponent's 3-4. And he did find a Doorkeeper.
There's the Doorkeeper. Yeah, he must have drawn it, too, because he would have just played that, right?
Yeah, there's no reason why he would cycle the Azorius Charm on his own turn.
Right.
If he already had a blocker at the ready.
That's right. All right, so Martin Lindstrom says, I will play my Stonefair Crocodile and battle for 3.
Right.
I mean, Martin is pretty much forced to block here, right? Even though
Yeah.
Martin Lindstrom can have all manner of combat trick, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Not block with that 0-4? Right. He does, in fact, block, and Chorus of Might is going to pump up that Rubbleback Rhino. It can be countered, but of course he can't be interfered with as far as the Rhino goes because it's got hexproof. It's going to bring its power up to 5 and give it trample. It's like Martin's thinking.
And he lets it die. Falls to 12.
Untaps. Draws his turn. Was it a Hussar Patrol? What was that?
Couldn't see.
Maybe a Tower Drake?
Either one of those would give Martin a blocker for his opponent's Rhino.
Looks like he's going to inaction injunction to start off the proceedings here. Draw a card.
His opponent's finally given him a target for it.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
Oh, is that for a Chaos Imps?
Yeah, Chaos Imps comes in and it does not bother unleashing it.
So 6/5
Still
flyer.
massive, yep.
Yeah.
Makes for a pretty sweet blocker when you don't unleash it, too.
Yeah, but looks like Lindstrom has the Tristani's Judgment.
Now, unfortunately for him, he's not going to get a chance to get any tokens out of the deal. He cannot attack with the Stonefair Crocodile as it's still detained. Rubble Wreck Rhino, however, does get in for 3. It's going to drop Martin Yuza down to 9.
Yuza still needs to find a way to deal with that Rhino.
Looks like Martin's taking a quick note here, double checking his life total. Definitely taking his time and making this play here. It looks like he is going to attack. It's going to bring Martin Lindstrom from 20 to 19. Not exactly a critical attack here, but it's not going to block.
Right, if you're not blocking, you might as well be attacking.
Get in there. It's important.
A Vassal Soul.
And Martin's going to play a Transguild Promenade after the Vassal Soul.
So now Yuza has a blocker for his opponent's Stonefair Crocodile, but he still doesn't have an answer for the Rhino.
Yeah. Rhino is representing a 3-turn clock by itself.
And Azorius Justicar.
Azorius Justiciar is going to change this race significantly as all of a sudden Martin Yuza is now down to 3. And he's going to have to block just to stay alive and take 2 and go to 1 if the board doesn't change by next turn. He also can't keep the pressure up on Lindstrom, who's sitting at 19 anyway and isn't really susceptible to anything urgently. Looks like Martin Yuza has a bunch of lands in play here. He's got 10 lands. Probably a couple more than he'd like ideally, but let's see what he's got.
Oh, that's a Street Spasm.
Wow.
He overloads it for 4.
So that's going to be 3, right, to each creature?
Oh,
for
4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Wow.
So when you overload, it does it to each creature your opponent controls. It doesn't target everyone.
That is incredible.
It goes to each of them. So even though the Rumbleback Rhino
has hexproof,
Street Spasm still kills it.
That's incredible. It also is ridiculously expensive in that it takes 10 mana to pull that move off.
Just a few moments ago, you were commenting,
Yeah.
Martin Yuza got 10 lands.
Yep.
Probably more than he wants. No, that was exactly how many he wanted.
Yeah, he wanted to get to 10 real badly there. So, yeah, I guess when you have spells that have 2 X mana costs, then you kind of want to have a bunch of extra mana.
Lindstrom tapping out to make a 7/7 slime, or an ooze, rather.
An ooze, and it's lethal at 3/3, but this one's even bigger. So again, Martin Hughes is facing down a lethal attacker and has to plan out accordingly how he's going to deal with it. It always feels bad when you're on Martin Lindstrom's side and he just casually attacks with both creatures. He just, because, there it is. So you know that he's got an answer for it in some form or another.
Is it Kirun? So at the very least, he has a chump blocker. Now, if Yuza has a bounce spell, he may want to cast it right now. So you can make sure that Lindstrom can't untap and populate. But no, he's passing the turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because getting Lindstrom's creature tapped in combat isn't such a big deal if you're just going to kill it anyway.
Now, Lindstrom, of course, attacks in.
That is the Cyclonic Rift.
Which Yuza is paying the overload for.
6, 7. He's paid the overload for. Is there any reason why?
Because of
to
populate.
Hit populate? Okay.
Because of pop.
He's going to do that because if in response Martin Lindstrom were to populate, then he would have gotten to keep his other creature. So good play by Martin Yuza there.
Kind of interesting that Yuza decided to wait until Lindstrom's turn to do that rather than casting it for 2 on his own turn and potentially leaving up counterspell mana. I figure, so I guess at this point, Yuza figures that Lindstrom's plays are completely scripted. If he has any spell, he's just going to cast it.
That's right.
So,
and we see Martin dump his hand. He's got Armory Guard and a Keening Apparition now on the battlefield. He's representing lethal damage. There's a Cellar of Songbirds, which is going to help with that.
So Lindstrom can probably buy himself another turn, but will he be able to do much more than that?
I mean, in the colors that he's in, it feels like getting that 3 damage in is going to be a pretty tall order.
So Yuza probably going to end up leaving his Concordia Pegasus back. Imagine he's probably going to attack with his other 4 creatures to force a chump block.
Well, he's got to be careful here. He's down to a tight finish. Doesn't want to lose to a random pump spell.
Yeah. He does. He attacks with everything. Armory Guard has Vigilance because Yuza controls a gate. Lindstrom trades his Cellar of Songbirds for Yuza's Izzet Keyrune and falls to 2. No?
And Lindstrom extends the hand.
Shows the Archon of the Triumvirate in his hand.
That's what Lindstrom had?
Yeah. That was what the blue is for.
So that would explain why there was blue there. And Martin Yuza is going to improve to 8-0. He's one of the better limited players in the world. He really, really excels at these at the limited portion of the Pro Tours and as well at the GP level.
Yeah. So are we going to be able to hop over to the other match? No, unfortunately not. Do we want to